Good morning and welcome to the Toronto Daily News for January 5th, Saturday. This is your host, Dorian Sky. City News is reporting that police have some new info coming out about and pictures for this shooting that happened on Friday morning near Walpole and Greenwood. It's like Greenwood and Gerrard area. So the new info is that there's these two vehicles with a bunch of people in them parked in the area, and someone came up, like parked near each other, I guess, and then somebody came up, started shooting at the people in the vehicles, and they returned fire, and the guy on foot fled, and one of the people in the car got struck by a gunshot and went to the hospital. Anyway, we've got a photo of one of the cars. It's red. It's a Nissan Altima. So if you're in that area, maybe check out the picture and see if you have any info for the police. So in activism news, the yellow vest protests in Paris have gotten super heated. They almost broke into the National Assembly and had crazy fights in the streets with the police and everything, tear gas and all that. And then in Canada, our version of pro-pollution profiteering activism took the form of driving along the Trans-Canada Highway near Brandon, Manitoba. So there's this big this caravan, this procession of big trucks and stuff like that, people driving big trucks and all types of vehicles, and sort of honking their horns in support of pipeline construction and the oil industry. An Arizona woman who has been in a coma for 14 years has given birth. So she was raped in the hospital during this, while in this vegetative state, and actually gestated this baby without anybody knowing what the heck was going on. And of course, because who's going to expect that this woman's going to be pregnant? But still, how do you have a pregnancy without anybody noticing? Anyway, they have no idea who the rapist is. And so we've got this mother who has been unconscious for her whole pregnancy, and this infant who is surprisingly healthy considering they had no special normal prenatal care. In other rape news, 2 BC police constables have been cleared of sexual assault charges in the case of a 17-year-old Ontario girl in Veradero, Cuba. Last March, they were cleared in November, and so they just arrived back in Canada on Saturday. The officers are Mark Sims and Jordan Long of BC. Police have charged a Brampton man with, in more sex exploitation news, they have charged him with 13 charges related to the sex trafficking of his 17-year-old sex slave. He's a pimp. He's a Brampton guy, 26, Kristen Peter Miller, and somebody, I guess, there's allegations made against him on December 27th with the Human Trafficking Enforcement Team of the Toronto Police. So December 27th, they started investigating, and then they raided him the next day. And they suspect that they only have this one victim that they know about so far, but they suspect that there's more victims, so they're continuing the investigation. On Friday, City News reported that Leo Solomon Martin, 28 years old, of Toronto, is wanted for attempted murder in a shooting in an after-hours club in Oakwood Village just after 5 a.m. on New Year's Day. The police are reaching out to the public for any information that they have about this case. CP24 reported on Friday a driver has been charged for killing a pedestrian. This was on September 21st in the afternoon. Near Carleton in Ontario in Cabbagetown, the victim was 57, and he died in the hospital. They didn't initially. They thought he'd been assaulted and not without a vehicle, and then realized he'd been assaulted with a vehicle. The driver fled. Her name's Michelle Schemilt. She's 35. She was arrested on Thursday for fleeing the accident scene of an accident that resulted in bodily harm and also causing death by criminal negligence. So I'm not sure whether her criminal negligence is supposed to be leaving the scene when she could have helped out and potentially helped to save him, or striking him in the first place. So we got to still find out whether her whether she was driving wrong, or whether she was responsible for for hitting him, or whether it was just her fleeing the scene that was putting him that constituted violence on her part. A Reddit user's girlfriend, so this is in lighter news, has captured a photo of a coy wolf that they ran into. They reported it as a coyote, but I'm saying it's probably a coy wolf because coyotes don't really do the urban hanging out thing. And the coy wolf is like a new coyote and wolf crossover breed. If you want to learn more about it, you can watch this nice documentary that was made in Canada about them in Toronto, and they're this sort of they're uniquely adapted to these kind of environments. So this was in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. So on Saturday morning, they got this picture of this gorgeous wild dog. And then a whole bunch of other users started reporting their own sightings of, animals throughout the GTA. The modern day coy wolf, they chill out in suburbs and stuff. They have super long scavenging routes that they use. So you can run into them in the little kind of ribbons of green space that we got going through places like cemeteries, or but especially when they're connected with ravine systems and stuff. And they will also, so any suburbs that are sort of near ravine systems or near these green ways, which the city is trying to, the city wants to make a network of these greenways so that wildlife can thrive. And the coy wolves are included in the wildlife. And they did actually, they have eaten one person so far. But the best advice that we've been given as the public is don't associate yourself with being a source of food by feeding them or leaving food out for them. And they don't bring out your tiny children or your small pets and stuff like that. If you live in any of these type of areas and you have small pets, you got to have, there's this additional factor. There's a predator in the area. And if you're small and yummy, then you're in danger. So infants in the backyard, pets in the backyard, or wandering through the back areas of ravines and stuff like that are a concern. So on Friday morning, police had reports of gunfire and then showed up, found some evidence of shots had been fired on the northwest side of the 401 and the 404 where they cross over, and southeast of Don Mills and Shepherd. So they're searching for witnesses. The Sunday weather it's just going to be kind of maybe a rainy or kind of snowy morning maybe. And the rest of the day is sort of cold and overcast, except it's going to clear out by evening. And it's going to get real cold in the evening, not real cold, -5, -6. Monday and Tuesday is going to also be kind of just like dim and wet, but a bit warmer. And that is the news. Reporting it, yesterday's news this morning. So morning after news. This is your host, Dorian Sky, for the news for Saturday, January 5th, 2019. Except I didn't talk about the ongoing government shutdown in the States. It continues. We're past week 2. And apparently Trump is talking about how he'll just keep the shutdown just going on indefinitely until he gets what he wants. And so meanwhile, the government is not getting paid, and this is going to get really, really terrible and ugly really quick and unexpectedly, potentially this month or next month or something. It's possible he might get impeached over this, or it will just he'll somehow get written out of the decision-making process around this. But it's sort of part of the ongoing story of what can cause a U.S. government shutdown and the use of a shutdown as political leverage, because presidents and there's sort of a short list of people who have either collectively or individually the opportunity at any given time to just hold everybody hostage. Maybe not at any given time. I think at this point he took advantage of a specific juncture where the budget was, it is a budget bill that he's messing with. But anyway, at some point this might change. It might get written out of law where nobody could cause government workers to not get paid. This is it's almost like the way that politicians can go on strike or put the nation on strike as their way of going on strike. So it's a wacky and wild situation. Anyway, have a wonderful Sunday.